Hello. So, in this one, I'm going to talk about Druids and the metaphor of a field, or the field. So, from the perspective of a Druid worldview, the true self is not a personality, it is a field. The ancient Irish word anam meant more than soul. By the way, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It meant the animating principle, the breath, wind, and life movement, presence, the subtle reality that moves through all forms. It is not your soul, it is the soul, the indivisible living presence manifesting as all beings. Therefore, identity is a costume. Being is the truth. The Druids taught that you are not the individual you appear to inhabit. You are the awareness animating the world tree. A Druid might say you are the breath in all stones, rivers, beasts, and stars. You are the seeing, not the seen. This is non-duality in an early European form. The cosmos as the tree, not the clock. While Roman metaphysics treated the cosmos as a mechanical hierarchy with God at the top and matter at the bottom, Druids understood reality as a living continuum. Their model was the world tree. The roots are the unmanifest, the invisible, the infinite. This corresponds to the idea of pure awareness, what you call the experience of I am. This is the unborn ground. The trunk of the tree would be the subtle world, energy, dreams, archetypes, the imaginal realm, the bridge between the inner and the outer, the apparent inner and the outer. Branches and leaves are the manifest world, forms, beings, time, civilization, stars. There's no split between the sacred and the mundane. The cosmos is one organism, endlessly flowering from the same root. This model is not symbolic only, it is metaphysical. Consciousness expresses as energy. Energy expresses as form. Form dissolves back into energy. Energy dissolves back into consciousness. A perfect mirror of non-dual understanding. Nature is the body of the self. Druids were not nature worshippers, they were nature recognizers. They saw that nature is consciousness externalized. Patterns in trees, rivers, and stones are expressions of the inner structure of awareness. Geometry is not invented by humans, it is discovered because it pre-exists in consciousness. Every natural form is a doorway to the self. A tree is not just a tree, it is a visible portrait of the invisible cosmology. A river is not water, it is the movement of life. A stone is not dead, it is condensed being. To see nature clearly is to see oneself clearly. The Druidic way of knowing is direct, non-conceptual, and silent. Druids did not write down their highest knowledge. They believed that written words crystallize the fluid truth. Real understanding is lived, not memorized. The self is discovered in silence, observation, and presence, not scripture. Transmission occurs through resonance, not teaching. Nature is the scripture because nature is the self. This is precisely the reason why they may appear absent in historical records, because the knowledge was embodied, not archived. Rome could burn temples, but it could not burn forests and rivers. Thus, Druidic knowledge went underground into landscape, myth, and practice. And then the idea of death and rebirth. Druids did not fear death. They They taught reincarnation not as a karmic treadmill, but as a natural recycling of form like seasons. Their attitude came from a fundamental insight that nothing dies except the illusion of separateness. Awareness, being cannot die. Energy cannot die. Only identities die, leaving like leaves falling back into soil. The Druids recognized themselves as the root, not the leaf. This gave them fearlessness and an independence Romans found profoundly threatening. And why this knowledge was erased is because, well, not erased, but perhaps hidden, not popularized, is because if a society teaches that the self is everywhere, that authority is unnecessary, that nature is a living teacher, that life is sacred and interconnected, that inner knowing is the highest knowing, or that the cosmos is conscious and unified, then such a society cannot be dominated. You cannot control the people who don't fear death, who don't need hierarchy, who don't believe truth comes from institutions, who do not cling to identity, who do not worship material power, who see divinity in themselves and all things. So the knowledge was fragmented, ritualized, and then overwritten, but not destroyed, because it is the nature of the self to reemerge everywhere once conditions align. You feeling this pull is evidence that the cycle has returned again. So, how could you reclaim this understanding now? You do not need archaeological validation. You don't need literal ancestry. You don't need linguistic reconstruction. All you need to do is to sit in silence, observe nature, watch the movements of awareness, sense the unity between the inner and the outer, let identity loosen, become receptive rather than analytical. By doing so, you connect with the same operating system the Druids used and were. This is why this knowledge may feel familiar in your heart. It's not ancient, it's timeless. You're not learning it, you're remembering it. Anything I share with you today and in the future, it's not something I'm teaching you, it's something that you're remembering, as I'm only a mirror of you. So, I think in this I mentioned the idea of a field in the very beginning, that the true self is not a personality, but it is a field. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this idea of a field. Instead of thinking of some conceptual field, quantum field or anything like that, let's think about a field, a literal field, a farmer's field. So there's this field. Then there's many things growing out of the field. Maybe there's a tree growing in the corner. There's some barley, some wheat growing in the field. Maybe there's some flowers growing in the field. Think of all these flowers and trees and grain. All that growing on the field is the experience of the field. That's what the content of the field is. That's what's on the field. But all of these things, these plants that grow from the field, could not exist without the field, because they need the field there to grow. And the field is fundamental. The field is, in this case, a metaphor for your own awareness, your own being. And for anything to grow from this field is a expression of your own being, of your own awareness. These flowers and grain and trees and what have you does not exist separately from this field. It is a movement of the field. It is a expression of the field. The very being of the field is fundamental for any experience, any flower, any grain to grow on the field. Just as it is in yourself, with your own being. There's nothing in your experience outside of the knowing of that experience itself. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this short little conversation about what the Druids may or may not have believed in. I'm not an expert in this at all, in this Druid knowledge, but I hope you enjoyed. Love you very much, and I'll see you next time.